I'd like to say thank you more so than ever to all my followers. I can't express to you how much your loyalty means to me. And in lieu of the recent allegations, trust me, the truth will come out in time. But I certainly appreciate your support.
Since the Mississippi welfare scandal story broke, Brett Favre has been in hiding. Now he has broken his silence. Favre has chosen the route of deflection, not owning up to the evidence at hand and then pivoting to this.
I also want to recognize active duty military who are also my supporters, as well as veterans.
We'll revisit in a moment, but Favre then concludes with this truly philosophical ending.
There's a certain disrespect in this country that is downright disrespectful.
Brilliant. Now, if you've been living under a rock, here's what you missed.
I'm the furthest thing from a racist. I think I'm a pretty good guy.
Now, Favre is currently embroiled in a controversy involving the use of federal welfare funds set aside for the state of Mississippi's most vulnerable residents, which were reportedly diverted to Favre and others.
But, as this has just been unfolding, the main players of this scheme, namely Phil Bryant and Brett Favre, have sort of tried to make excuses for their involvement.
The journalist who broke this story is Anna Wolf of Mississippi Today, seen here.
New text messages show the pressure former NFL quarterback Brett Favre was putting on then Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. Favre requested money for an indoor football practice facility to help recruit a player for his college alma mater, the University of Southern Mississippi, in 2019. The funding in question from a grant program intended for low-income families. The governor responded to Favre's request. Use of these funds is tightly controlled. Any improper use could result in violation of federal law.
Each year, Mississippi gets $86 million in welfare money from the federal government, though the state rejects 90% of those who apply.
It shows that Brett Favre asked the head of a nonprofit handling welfare funds, quote, "If you were to pay me, is there any way that the media could find out where it came from and how much?"
These new court documents filed by Bryant's attorneys allege Favre and former nonprofit director Nancy New, who has already pleaded guilty to fraud in the $77 million scheme, were requesting funds from the Mississippi Department of Human Services to build a facility.
We then learn more of Brett Favre's antics via The Athletic. We learn Favre's charity, which is called Favre for Hope, was founded to provide financial assistance to 501c3 agencies that provide services to underserved and disabled children in Mississippi and Wisconsin. In the same years Favre was soliciting money to build the volleyball facility, his charitable foundation, which received public donations, significantly increased its contributions to USM's athletic fundraising arm. Tax records show that Favre for Hope gave the USM Athletic Foundation $60,000 in 2018, when no other charity received more than $10,000. The next year, it gave $46,817. The next highest gift to the Special Olympics of Mississippi was $11,000. In 2020, Favre for Hope sent USM's Athletic Foundation $26,175. No other organization received more than $10,000. Nancy New and her son Zach pled guilty to bribery and fraud. They ran the Mississippi Community Education Center. Since they are both cooperating, we have learned much more on the inner workings of Favre and then Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. The News claim in court docs that Governor Bryant directed Nancy to pay over $1 million to Favre.
I wanted to at least collect the facts.
Former U.S. Attorney Brad Pygott was hired by the state to find the money.
How is Brett Favre getting money that's supposed to get kids out of poverty?
It's a mystery to us. Here we had tens of millions of dollars sent by the country to do the thing that we need done the most, and it was squandered.
In July, he issued a subpoena to get more answers about that volleyball arena, including any communications between the university and former Governor Phil Bryant.
What happened to you after you filed your subpoena?
I was terminated.
The state welfare agency says they fired Pygott because the client and the lawyer were not on the same page. The investigation has only recently resumed. Welfare agency head John Davis was arrested and charged with bribery and conspiracy. He pled not guilty.
Former U.S. Attorney Brad Pygott subpoenaed powerful people. He was fired, with many pointing the finger at current Trumpian Governor Tate Reeves. Then ESPN put us on to Jacob Van Lattingham.
The end of a grueling season for many players in the league, and throughout the season, many players endured brain-addling hits causing concussions. While no single cure-all for concussions exists yet, there is a promising new treatment. It is called nasal spray. It's a nasal spray called Prevacol, and it is set to begin phase 1 clinical studies. Joining us right now is former NFL star Brett Favre and the founder and president of Prevacol, Dr. Jacob Van Lattingham. Good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining us.
Who teamed up with Brett Favre to get in front of the cameras in an effort to promote a nasal spray and later a cream that they claim could treat athletes who had suffered a concussion. It never received FDA approval.
He's a postdoc at Emory. We talked to people who worked with him there, and sort of a mixed bag. There was one woman who was very positive about him, but there were others who said that he'd sort of overstated and inflated his role at Emory. And then we tried to find people at Florida State to talk about him, which is where he became a neuroscientist, where he got his PhD, and basically nobody would talk to us.
However, it did not stop them from having claimed to have worked with the NFLPA and 2 higher-ups within the league office.
Basically, they appeared to be really not associations or advisors, but rather people that the company had called. The NFL said, look, we've heard from these guys, but we don't have any association with them. We're not connected to them in any way. The NFLPA said the same thing. The NCAA said the same thing.
Prosecutors say 2 of Van Lattingham's companies, Prevacol and Presol MD, received $2 million from the news. The latest via Anna Wolf of Mississippi Today is the following. Former Governor Phil Bryant is again asking a judge to throw out a subpoena against him in the state's ongoing civil case related to the scandal. In a filing Friday, Bryant argued that his personal texts are protected under executive privilege and that the subpoena should either be thrown out or that any records he provides be placed under a protective order. He made a nearly identical response in September to a separate subpoena for his communication related to the new volleyball stadium at his alma mater, USM, which was built using $5 million in welfare funds. The latest subpoena comes from Austin Smith, the nephew of convicted former welfare director John Davis. Smith is accused of taking nearly $430,000 in welfare funds under contracts he allegedly didn't fulfill. He has argued in response to the complaint against him that if he's liable for welfare misspending, Bryant is too, and that the former governor should be added as a defendant. Bryant has rejected the notion. The Mississippi Department of Human Services civil case targets 38 individuals or companies, including Favre, the concussion drug company Prevacol, and Prevacol founder Jake Van Lattingham, in an attempt to claw back roughly $24 million in misspent welfare funds. The purchases targeted in the suit make up a fraction of the nearly $100 million in improper spending that State Auditor Shad White uncovered in 2020.